I'm Ron Gray, and this is Family Freedom Fighters. Today, let's consider the case of Luka Rocco Magnotta. We still don't know much about this troubled young man, but consider what's been in the media so far. He is suspected of murdering and dismembering a man in his 30s, with whom some acquaintances say Luka had some kind of relationship. It has also been reported and denied that he'd had some sort of relationship with the torture murderess Karla Homolka. On his website, he reportedly describes himself as both a model and an aspiring porn star. Let me repeat that we do not yet know the accuracy of any of this, but please allow me to ask a few questions. 1. Does it appear to you that Luka Rocco Magnotta was committed to the kind of conventional sexual morality that the majority of Canadians desire to teach their children is the ideal? No? Then on to question 2. Should our schools, which now proclaim that all versions of love are equal, now teach our children that Mr. Magnotta's version of sexuality is equal with all others? A third question. Why do sex activists insist that by trying to instill in our children the ideals of abstinence before marriage and fidelity within marriage of one man and one woman, we are somehow preaching hate? What's actually wrong with holding up that ideal for all Canadian children? Well, perhaps when he's found, we can ask Mr. Magnotta for his opinion. You see, there is a strong likelihood that he was never taught those ideals as a child. Indeed, he may even have been sexually abused as a child. A fourth question, and then I'm through for this session. Is there any real reason why we shouldn't all be working harder to defend and pass on traditional concepts of sexual morality instead of perpetuating the nonsense that all concepts are equally valid? I'm Ron Gray. That's the way it looks to me. A word about derivatives and other economic pornography. Patrick Wood, the editor of the August Review, wrote back in March of 2008, I quote, "The predicted financial meltdown is upon us with a fury. Asset values are collapsing all over the world. Residential and commercial real estate, stocks, all forms of credit, and some $750 trillion in the fabricated derivative markets. The FDIC is gearing up for record-level bank failures. It's all coming unglued." Close quotes. Did you notice Wood's reference to the fabricated derivatives markets? More than 15 years ago, in a commentary for CHP Canada, I criticized the then new development of derivatives, as well as trading and market indices, which I said were nothing more than gambling. Now, I know that some people call the operation of the stock market itself gambling, but they're wrong. While it's certainly possible for some people to use the stock market like a gambling den, the market actually serves a very useful purpose: the mobilization and the monetization of investments through the sale of equity shares to create pools of capital. But derivatives, which are really just guesses about changes in the future relationships of otherwise unrelated stock prices, and questionable loans repackaged and then sold as bonds, and trading in stock market indices, these are truly nothing more than gambling. They're really very closely related to the old numbers racket, in which people used to bet on the last 4 digits of the next day's total number of shares traded. But no new capital is accumulated or monetized, and the operation of the equity market is not facilitated. It's just gambling, the hope to get rich quick. In the case of the 1995 collapse of Barings Bank and the more recent loss of more than $7 billion by the French bank Société Générale, the rogue traders who imperiled investors' deposits were just caught on the wrong side of betting on heavily leveraged derivatives. Derivatives, someone recently said, are like jet fuel in the marketplace. When things are going well, they cause the market to soar, but when things go wrong, they turn it into a fireball. Gambling, I feel, is immoral because it relies on chance, not on God or our own efforts to meet our needs. It is a kind of economic pornography. It's the desire to have something that is desirable, but without any responsibility. The tragedy of our time is that governments have become the biggest promoters of gambling. It gives them revenue without seeming to raise taxes, and it creates slush funds of benefits with which they can reward friends of the government. And gambling is also harmful to society in that government-sponsored gambling has provided a means of laundering the proceeds of crimes like prostitution and drug dealing. Government-promoted gambling, like the lotteries, are economic pornography. They prey upon those least able to afford a loss, holding out the vain hope of a big win. CBC Radio's Danny Finkelman used to call the lottery a tax on stupidity. Like any other kind of porn, real people are really hurt when its fantasies come unglued. I'm Ron Gray, and that's the way I see it.